Scott, thanks. Up next on Today, Beatle and wife. Paul McCartney prepares to wed his New York sweetheart. The details after this.
Very special day in the life of Paul McCartney. The 69-year-old Beatle legend is expected to marry American Nancy Shevell in a small civil ceremony that's making headlines around the world. NBC's Chapman Bell is live for us in London with more. Hey, Chapman.
Hey, good morning, Jenna. Well, at Paul McCartney's home behind me, everything has arrived. The champagne, flowers, tables and chairs, everything you need for a wedding reception. Everything that is except a newlywed bride and groom. He may have wondered if someone would still be there at 64. But it's at 69 that Paul McCartney has rediscovered love, as the ex-Beatle and American Nancy Shevell are expected to tie the knot in London on what would have been John Lennon's 71st birthday. The love affair has been low-key.
I've had the privilege of meeting her so far. Very subdued lady, very classy lady. Doesn't really enjoy the glare of the spotlight.
The couple got engaged in May. Then their names appeared at a London register office, making public their intention to get married. Just before the weekend, a marquee went up at his London home, followed by the delivery of chairs, flowers, and champagne. All signs pointing to a wedding.
It's wonderful. I wish him all the best.
The vows are set to take place in the same location McCartney wed Linda in 1969, a marriage that lasted almost 30 years before her tragic death from cancer. She was his soulmate and draws parallels to his new love.
Nancy is eminently appropriate as a wife for Paul McCartney. In fact, she's the woman that Paul's friends and family wished he had married the last time.
There don't seem to be many similarities to McCartney's second marriage. The wedding and divorce with former model Heather Mills was front-page news for the UK's tabloids. This time, things appear different, particularly with McCartney's fashion designer daughter.
Stella was famously anti-Heather Mills from the very beginning. Paul has had the support of his children with regard to his relationship with Nancy.
Today, McCartney's set to show that all you need is love and a little patience to find happiness again. Well, Jenna, there was a flurry of excitement earlier when Paul and Nancy got in a vehicle here at the house and left, but they returned shortly after. No sign of them just yet at the registry office. But for an unconfirmed wedding, Jenna, there's some interesting details about that coming out in the papers here. It said that Beatrice, Paul McCartney's 7-year-old daughter with Heather Mills, will be the only flower girl and bridesmaid at the ceremony, and expected to be a small ceremony, only about 30 people. And we're also being told that Paul McCartney will serenade his new bride with 3 songs at this reception behind me later today: Let It Be, Let Me Roll It, and one he's pinned just for the special event. Jenna?
Chapman Bell, thank you. Can you imagine getting serenaded by Paul McCartney when Paul's your husband? We have a couple other little details here. Paul accompanied Nancy Shevell, we understand, who is Jewish, to a synagogue last night where she received a blessing. No word on whether the two of them went for Yom Kippur services yesterday. And then the couple went out for Chinese food with family and friends. Comment.
Did we get the entire menu?
That we didn't, but we believe it is Kung Pao chicken, so
wow.
We're on a good...
They look very happy.
For a very famous Beatle. Stay with us. More on the way.
His fiancée, American heiress Nancy Shevell, the couple chose a modest civil ceremony to be followed by a reception at McCartney's home. According to reports, the ex-Beatle composed a special song for Shevell and plans to sing Let It Be. And those are the top stories right now. Shannon, back to you.
Today was wedding day for Paul McCartney. The legendary musician married his American girlfriend, Nancy Shevell, in London. The only other surviving ex-Beatle, Ringo Starr, of course, he was there, one of the special guests. This is McCartney's 3rd marriage and Shevell's 2nd. Today's wedding took place in Marylebone Town Hall, the same place where McCartney married his first wife, Linda. She died in 1998. McCartney's 2nd marriage ended in divorce.
The town hall in London, followed by a small reception filled with stars, including ABC's own Barbara Walters. Diana Rodriguez here with more. And how fitting Sir Paul sang for his bride.
It was like a mini concert. He sang 3 songs, George. Good morning. And after dating 4 years, 69-year-old Paul McCartney married 51-year-old New York heiress Nancy Shevell. It was McCartney's 3rd trip down the aisle, Nancy's 2nd. And we're now learning new details about the ceremony, which included a lot of family, tears, and, oh yes, a vegan wedding cake.
With a simple ceremony of 30 close friends and family, Sir Paul McCartney and his new wife, socialite Nancy Shevell, proved the classic Beatles song true. All you need is love. All you need Simple and elegant, sources say. This ceremony was everything his second multi-million-dollar wedding to Heather Mills was not. Showered by rose petals and beaming with pride, Paul shared his joy with a sea of fans. Former bandmate Ringo Starr attended, as well as ABC's Barbara Walters, the bride's second cousin. Walters called the event, quote, beautiful and wonderful.
Well, I think Sir Paul is a hopeless romantic, actually. I think it's as simple as that. This is a really good match. Him and Nancy are soulmates.
Clearly a family affair, Nancy wore a dress by Paul's daughter, fashion designer Stella McCartney, something Stella allegedly refused to do when her father married Mills. His 7-year-old daughter Beatrice played the role of flower girl, while his sister Mary, a professional photographer, snapped pictures.
It was an incredibly poignant day, and I think the fact that they chose to also get married on what would have been John Lennon's 71st birthday, a lot of memories attached with that.
During the reception, Sir Paul sang some of his classics like Let It Be and Let Me Roll It, which was a special request from the bride. Paul reportedly also sang a new song written specifically for his new wife.
We understand from sources at the party that it was the highlight of the evening, and he serenaded her with this song that he wrote especially to celebrate their wedding day, which is, well, very romantic.
Now, it is reported that while Nancy offered to sign a prenup, Paul refused, despite the fact that his divorce from Mills cost him nearly $50 million. And Robin and George just hop off the presses. An exclusive quote from our own Barbara Walters, who said, quote, it was most of all a warm and very loving family affair with lots of children, informal and so happy. I did not introduce Nancy and Paul, but they're so well matched, I wish I could have. She's going to have more details on the View, obviously, this morning.
Sure she will. We cannot wait for that. Okay, Bianca, thanks very much.
They look so happy.
They look really great together. Thanks, Bianca. Matt, thanks. On a much happier note, there was another royal wedding in London over the weekend. Rock royalty, that is. At the age of 69, Sir Paul McCartney tied the knot for a third time on Sunday. His bride, an American heiress. NBC's Michelle Kaczynski is in London with details on this morning. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hi, Ann. It was like another royal wedding. Rock and roll royalty meets American society royalty in New York heiress and businesswoman Nancy Shevell. But this one was low-key. The couple started the morning by driving to a workout together. A couple hours later, they were married in front of about 30 people, ending with a more glamorous party here at home. It was no use trying to keep it all hush-hush. Sir Paul McCartney and bride Nancy Shevell left the town hall, no containing their happiness. Paul mugging for the cameras, his usual goofy self. And I love her. Nancy dressed simply in a design by Paul's famous daughter, Stella. There's Barbara Walters, Nancy's second cousin, and of course fellow Beatle, Ringo Starr. As flower girl, Paul's daughter Beatrice, from his second marriage to Heather Mills. Yes, McCartney's last trip down the aisle, which cost millions in a castle with endless publicity, did end 4 years later in a very ugly divorce that cost Paul tens of millions.
So Paul McCartney is a sort of undying romantic. You know, he totally believes in love.
Paul started dating 51-year-old Nancy shortly after that divorce in 2008. Soon, Nancy divorced her lawyer husband, with whom she has a teenage son.
But Nancy was virtually a perfect candidate from the very beginning. Not only was she a friend of the family, someone who Linda would have certainly approved of, but she was independently wealthy. I mean, some reports have suggested she has nearly as much money as Paul does himself.
And it was this same place in 1969 where Paul married his first wife, Linda, also an American, who many consider the love of his life. Her death from breast cancer crushed him. Nancy is a breast cancer survivor. And at their reception, Paul serenaded her. Let it be. Let it be. The Wings song, Let Me Roll It. Third piece he wrote just for her.
She's pretty young for him. I think it's great, though, as long as he's happy. Because, I mean, he deserves to be happy still.
He who once asked, will you still need me when I'm 64, gets a response of, yes, yes, I do. And I love her. You know, there is nothing like true love and a combined fortune of $1 billion to keep you young. Guests last night included Twiggy, Ronnie Wood. They dined on organic vegetarian, including the cake. And now the British press is reporting the couple will head to New York, followed up with a Caribbean honeymoon.
Ooh, must be nice. All right, Michelle Kaczynski, thank you so much. What was your invitation?
I didn't get invited, but can I tell you how, I mean, she's a beautiful lady, but
wow.
He looks fantastic.
Doesn't he? Well, happiness does it to a man.
He always has that youth.
Over the weekend, he is 69 years old. His bride, Nancy Shevell, is a vice president in her father's trucking company. Newswoman, of course, and legend Barbara Walters introduced the couple. She and Shevell are cousins. Congratulations.
Columbus Day, so happy Columbus Day. Yeah. Welcome to The View. There was a big wedding making headlines this morning. Sir Paul McCartney got married to Nancy Shevell. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, but Nancy Shevell is Barbara Walters' niece, yeah?
Right there in the red?
Second cousin.
We saw Barbara right there, I think, in the red.
Like
there she is.
Yeah, there she is.
She just got her hair with the confetti, I saw.
Oh, there she is.
Good shot, Barbara.
It was a very intimate ceremony, apparently with Ringo Starr and Ron Wood and a few other notables in attendance. And I will say that when Barbara comes back tomorrow, she's going to give us all the whole skinny about it. But we just want to acknowledge the fact that there was a wedding, yet another one, in the View family.
4 years, New York businesswoman Nancy Shevell, they got married in a modest civil ceremony yesterday in London. They are so in love. Look at that. Showered rose petals. They're waving to the guests. They're going at it here, right?
I love it. Look at her there. The bride wore a flower in her hair to accent her long-sleeved, knee-length ivory dress. By the way, it was designed by her new stepdaughter, fashion designer Stella McCartney. She also made her dad's navy blue suit. I think that's the ultimate sign of approval. If Stella's making their outfits, so good.
According to People magazine, McCartney gave his bride a vintage 5-carat Neil Lane.
Neil Lane's everywhere.
Neil got himself into this one. Unbelievable. It was an eternity band. Non-denominational ceremony. Paul's youngest daughter, Beatrice, as the flower girl.
Look at her there.
Beautiful.
The wedding guests, by the way, included former Beatle Ringo Starr. George Harrison's widow, Olivia, was there. And Nancy's cousin, Barbara Walters. There she is right there, looking great in red. No Yoko Ono, but yesterday would have been John Lennon's 71st birthday. So I think that's keeping it all in the
You think
family.
Paul possibly planned the wedding on John's birthday so Yoko would be busy?
I was thinking how great it was that maybe he did plan it around to keep the band back together.
That one seemed obvious to me. Anyway, here's an interesting tidbit. Paul got married in the same London town hall where he first met his